I really sat in front of my computer like in a movie. And then the address where we should transfer the bitcoins really came immediately, specifically $300. Enter the password, and it is no clickbait. My account, or rather my accounts, are actually gone. The email has been changed, the password has been changed, I no longer have access. More specifically, it involves 2 Instagram profiles, and the bizarre thing is that I created one for exactly this self-experiment because I wanted to show whether it works or not with a hacker organization in the Darknet that offers exactly this on a large scale. The other profile is now, however, a very expensive collateral damage. How this all exactly unfolded and what plot twist this experiment still has to offer, you will find out now. This video has actually come up quite spontaneously in between. 2 weeks ago, we made a video on the topic of the dark web and hacker guides. We downloaded or purchased them there and then tried to learn how to hack ourselves within 24 hours. We wanted to hack a second phone belonging to Chris using all these tools. A few of you commented that we might have already committed an offense because we bought, downloaded, and ultimately used them. So, I asked the dear lawyer Christian Solmecke if that's true. Could we possibly still be held accountable for that? And here is his response.
If I download how to hack guides from the dark web, that is not yet illegal. Because even if hacking a phone is illegal, buying the guide for it is not yet an attempt of that act. The attempt only begins when I start to tamper with the phone.
You heard it. Since it involves our own phone, it's not a problem. However, I would like to point out again that if you do this with friends, even if it's some kind of prank or joke, especially with this third method where the selfie camera is involved, you are actually committing an offense. I mentioned this in the conclusion, but I want to reiterate that the authority says this.
The following offenses are being considered. First, we have Section 202A of the Criminal Code, which is the espionage of data, that is classical hacking. There is a risk of a prison sentence of up to 3 years or a fine.
Do you remember video 1? We tried that before. We hired a Darknet hacker, but he scammed us.
That's why I believe it didn't work out. The €800 have been scammed.
We learned through Martin Frost that many want to cheat there. That means they offer some kind of hacking services. Hey, I hack iPhones in 24 hours, and when you buy that, you no longer get a response or you get blocked, just like us. Because they speculate that if you do this to your ex-girlfriend, you can't go to the police and say, hey, I paid $300 for my ex-girlfriend to be hacked, because in that moment, you have committed a crime. That's why we approached it differently this time. We looked at what people are selling under fraud hacking. And these are mostly tools, guides, credit card fraud, and so on, but more like instructions than services. We then placed a few orders with a provider who really had many positive reviews. One was this hacker guide from the video you watched. A few other things we simply bought to establish contact or a bit of reputation. That means bought, paid quickly, jumped into the chat, a line or two saying, hey, thank you, it worked perfectly. Just that he knows who we are. And then a week later, I joined in and said, hey, we have actually bought everything from you. We are super happy, but do you also offer such a service? So maybe you can hack yourself as well, because I would also like to take advantage of that. Then it took a while, and eventually he wrote back that one must also say that these forums are sometimes down, that you get timed out, and so on. And at some point I wrote, no, I won't do it myself, or she, you never know, but I know someone, or rather, there is a group that does that, but they probably wouldn't want to work with us. Why? Because we simply have too little history. Simon has already given us a bit of history for the last video of this hacking guide, his old usernames, and some insights that were previously unknown. And that probably isn't enough. We would need more. You could tell that the guy was skeptical, but he also smelled money because this connection to the hacker group costs. And then I think he eventually weakened and said, okay, yeah. All these forums were also down, so he couldn't really verify it and he couldn't really check if it was true. So then I said, come on, let's just go to Jabber. At that moment, I was jabbering. I typed something into Google, found something, honestly had no idea, then sent myself something like PitGig. I thought Pitkin, I don't know, called Martin Frost. And he said, yeah, that sounds like a scene, an encrypted messenger that you download, and it's probably often used by those people who tend to sell a service that apparently gets executed, so it's not really a scam. I really sat in front of my computer like in a movie and did that, downloaded, talked to Martin, entered servers and so on. At the end of the day, the thing was set up and I sent this guy a message on the Jabber Pitkin client. The whole thing is encrypted, and I have to honestly say, I didn't dare to turn on OBS at that moment because I thought, okay, if everything here is encrypted and you're downloading a protocol like that, some security thing, and then I turn on OBS, it will probably say, yes, this is being recorded, similar to Snapchat. When someone sends you something and you take a screenshot, it gets displayed. And that's why we had to recreate this scene at this point. And that's how this chat went. First of all, no names. I immediately asked, can they hack everything? I mean, every social media platform, Instagram, YouTube, he says everything, no problem at all. Okay, how much does it cost if you make contact now? And then I was surprised because he says $10. So all this effort for that, downloading Jabber, encrypted client, and so on. Okay, send me his address. We didn't think long, sent the money there, and now here it comes. The Bitcoin has arrived, and then he sends me 3 email addresses, and we will stay at this point. This address, as well as the name before it, was like something out of a movie like Who Am I or some hacker film. So he sends these addresses along with a code and puts this code in the subject line, and you need to register within 24 hours because they are busy, and after that, the access will no longer work. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm sitting here in front of my laptop reading this, and I have to smile thinking, okay, I have no idea why the guy only took $10 from me. I still created a WebD account, wrote a one-liner, put the code in at the top and said, yeah, I have an account that I would like to hack. I went to bed, closed the laptop, but of course I never thought that I would actually receive a response. Next morning, I sit down here at my computer, do all my stuff, and at some point think, okay, right, I can check WebDE. I look in and actually received an email from them at 6:07 a.m. Of course, time difference and all that, no idea where they are from. They write, client, yes, indeed, we can do that for you. Any social media hack. Of course, also Instagram. I had mentioned that in my first email as well. I said, hey, can you explicitly hack an Instagram account? Then they say, we will get full access. So they would hack it in such a way that you would get the login details, password, and so on. Or I have no idea what is meant by that. You can also do anything you want with the account, maybe change some pictures or perhaps make something happen with the account, I don't know. Payment is of course in Bitcoin, and it would only take 1 to 3 days until we essentially get access after it is clear that the money is with them. Then I found it quite funny that if you are not completely happy, like when I say I don't know, it somehow came a bit too late or something, there is a refund policy, PayPal buyer protection or something on WebDE, and if I want to continue writing to them, I should just reply to this email. Of course, I did that immediately. But they wanted to know again, okay, where did you get our contact information before we get into the details, before you directly name the target and so on. They were also a bit suspicious, saying, hey, we know there are people who sell our contact information and we want to know exactly from whom. When did you get it? In which forum? I, of course, sent it to them. It's no problem. And then the address where we should transfer the Bitcoins really came immediately, specifically $300. I have to be honest, I found $300 for an Instagram hack to be relatively low. So I really would have expected around 1,000, 2,000, maybe even more, but it was 300. And as soon as everything arrives, they would basically start working on it immediately. We didn't think long, sent it off, and then we really just got an email from them saying, hey, tell us exactly who the target is. Do you have any information? I briefly considered taking my Instagram account because I thought, okay, if you really manage to do it, I have no idea. Then I would probably get a lot of messages like, hey Thorben, have you maybe been hacked and so on. At first, I thought about changing the profile picture, but then I thought it might not be so smart to make a video about hacking myself, so maybe Instagram wouldn't like it either. That's why I created a fake profile specifically of the dear Franjo Beutlin. Franjo Beutlin is a piano lover, a fire starter in the hearts of women, home ownership, no thanks, that is not an option for him. I create films on other platforms, and I just took a typical 1000-boy model picture from Google Images and inserted it there. I hope he isn't watching this video now, and in the end, that was the account. So then it was, of course, about the password, and I still remember, especially the topic of brute force and so on, if you have a password like 123, it is, of course, quite simple to hack. Therefore, we can also show you this. I specifically chose a password that even Instagram says is very secure. What I didn't do is enable two-factor authentication. Everything was, of course, done with fake data and so on. But in the end, I set that password, just took the URL, sent it to the hackers, and then all I got back was, okay, thanks. Yeah, it's currently the weekend, so it might be that we won't start working on it until tomorrow. So they might have just given themselves a grace period of 1 day, and that was it. Okay, 2 weeks have passed since then, and before I show you the result, I'll just briefly say something about the legal side of things. So let's see whether we have really committed a criminal offense here, because it is actually relatively clear how things went down here.
If I hack my own profiles, it depends on how the hack actually works. If one simply guesses the password somehow and uses technical tools without accessing any secured data from Meta or Google, then it is not punishable, as only the data from the social media profile is accessed and there is a justifying consent for that. It would be different if one accessed the operating system of Meta or Google. In this case, depending on the technical approach or the hacking, criminal norms would come into consideration again.
So now let's get to the email exchange. On the 21st, the hackers wrote that they wanted more information about what exactly they should do. I then thought maybe it would be cool if they changed the profile picture, because then it could be updated, especially for this video, since there's a profile picture of a clown or something like that, and then you would know, okay, Ark has been hacked. So in response, they wrote to me on the 22nd that it was completely pointless and that I could do it myself if they changed the password. I have to be honest, that confused me a bit because they had offered exactly that before. They said either we do something with the Ark or we hack it so that you have access, so to speak. I then responded relatively simply because I didn't want to have any more discussion. I said, okay, you are right, I will do everything myself, I just need the password. And then I didn't hear anything until the 25th. That was already unusual because they usually only took 1 to 2 days, so I just asked, hey, what's going on? On the 27th, they wrote, hey, we thought you would give us more information and whether the target and the intention are still the same. I thought, sure, I only wrote to an Insta target and I wanted the password, so there isn't really much room for negotiation. I then replied relatively politely saying, yes, as mentioned, the same target, please just the password. And then they wanted to wait until the weekend. And then I asked again, and they wanted 24 hours. And then bam, on Friday at 7:30 p.m. Perfect timing for the conclusion for the video here, send me a password. I'm sitting at the computer, recording everything with USB, wanted to insert it directly here, enter the password, and it is incorrect. And I replied within 2 minutes saying, the password doesn't work. I then logged into the account and checked if anything had happened. No attempts, just a single follow, so a dude who really followed us. The password does not work. And apparently they hadn't done anything at all. So after that, they wrote, hey, did you use a VPN? No idea what a VPN is, and they even told me that they didn't want to blame me, but just wanted to follow up. Yes, and that was the moment when we honestly didn't check anything anymore. I mean, they had our $300, they didn't ask for more money, but still, it all felt like, I don't know, a waste of time. And yeah, some pointless chats, the password is wrong, they apparently did nothing. So what's the point of all this? I mean, why keep us hanging? I then asked the dear Morpheus, greetings to him, who is currently on vacation, and he recorded a video for me. Is there a way for them to really send me a password without me, as the owner, noticing it? And this is his video.
Well, there are actually 3 ways to hack an Instagram account. However, I would say the first option is quite unlikely. Specifically, hackers could directly attack Instagram's servers and find a vulnerability to breach the server and gain full access to Instagram. But I don't believe that your hackers can really do that. The second option is a bit more likely, but still very unlikely. That would be brute forcing such an account. This means that one simply tries every possible password for the account online. However, this is a very time-consuming process, especially if the password is a bit complicated and therefore not really likely. The easiest method would be social engineering. This means that the hackers will send an email to the victim, in this case perhaps you, and try to persuade the victim to voluntarily provide their password.
So, and now here it comes. I'm sitting at the conclusion of this video, writing the script, and I wanted to say, hey, I have no idea why they are keeping us waiting, but it seems to be a scam. And I wanted to briefly explain social engineering again. That's when I had the idea that I could take a look at the email of Franley Beutlin, so I just went in and actually found a phishing email. So I click on it, super obvious. It was somehow about an account that was reported, and I had to restore it, blah, blah, blah. So I enter all this information. It definitely feels strange because I know what's about to happen. The password always says incorrect the first time. They actually designed it that way on purpose. I tried it several times because they want to ensure that you enter the correct one. Send it off. No two-step authentication. And hey, just don't change anything. Now you're really in the process. And I know exactly what you're thinking right now. We thought exactly the same and just waited for the hackers to get back in touch, but that email has still not arrived. Turkey logged in, changed the email address, but I have no idea who is behind it. Are the hackers now going to come to me at some point and say, yes, we have the password now? Maybe they'll even send a screenshot or something to show that they are active and want more money, just sending me the whole thing like that. Or was that a completely separate entity that had nothing to do with these hackers? But the whole situation left us restless. So we took this Bitcoin address where we transferred the $300 ourselves, and we'll show it to you as well. If anyone wants to play a bit of Sherlock, feel free to do so. It doesn't seem to have much money on it. I then created another fake account at GMX, contacted them as I had the email from them, and simply used a completely different name. Simply put, hey, I got your contact from XY who doesn't actually exist, and I am this and that, and this is also my username. Immediately after that, however, they sent an email back saying that they did not know the vendor and asked again very precisely in which forum which username is. That means we take this contact request or these recordings quite seriously. Yes, that's it for the video at this point. Feel free to write in the comments what you think about it. I have to honestly say, plot twist, it has all confused me so much. I can't say, is this whole thing a well-crafted scam? I mean, the kind that people take really seriously, even with those $10 and all. Is there anything else coming? I will definitely provide an update. I still hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe to this channel.